Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating that sort of thing.
Well, welcome back, folks. It's Sheriff Mack on The Truth Matters. And yes, I'm taking the place of Tina Peters today, my good friend, um, who's in prison. And yeah, it really is hard for me to fight back tears saying that about this patriotic, very classy lady. If any of you have ever uh, talked with her and got to know her a little bit, I think that's the same impression you're going to come away with. Tina Peters is a classy lady, and she's dedicated to the holy cause of liberty. And that's all she was doing that got her in trouble. Uh, you know, what did they say in 1984? What did George Orwell say in 1984? Um, what it maybe I'm messing it up a little bit. Uh, it's it's bad to be right when your country's wrong, or when your government's wrong. We got a great country, and I love the history. I love the history of America. I love studying it. I've actually taught it in school, and I love doing it. Talking about the founding fathers. Are you kidding? Absolutely love it, and a great bunch of men. Uh, Folks, what's going on today? What is going on in our country? Can you believe how everything is so bass backwards? Uh, what do, do do the Democrats actually have a brain left? Uh, you know, folks, you know you're in trouble when the smartest one in your party is Fetterman, Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania, the guy who wears hoodies to Congress. And isn't it amazing? Bill Maher and Fetterman are the smartest ones they have. Maher will not lie for the Democrats, and he doesn't like being lied to or lied about. I am the exact same way. Don't lie to me and don't lie about me. And I've got a lot of people who have done that to me and about me. Um, and maybe we'll get into one of these stories in a little bit. But folks, don't you think that's an amazing story right there? That that should be on every late night comedian talk show. Uh, that the smartest one in the Democrat Party is actually Fetterman. What's his first name? I can't remember. Anyway, he beat Dr. Oz, and that I think that says something about the people of Pennsylvania. But John Fetterman, okay, John Fetterman, and I'm telling you, uh, he's actually impressed me about trying to be fair, and he won't lie for the Democrats, and either will Bill Maher. So, folks, what has really gotten to the Democrats? Elon Musk and Donald Trump, President Trump, trying to find out where all our money is going. And they find out, and the Democrats go berserk. Are you kidding? They don't want the deep state exposed. They don't want the corruption exposed. And so, of course, they're already talking about another impeachment of Donald Trump. So, uh, It's absolutely astonishing what they have going on. But let's go back to Tina for just a minute. I know I said this last time, and I know a lot of other people have said it. It bears repeating. What was she trying to do? And according to what she was trying to do, is there any criminal activity or criminal intent, mens rea, in what she was trying to do? So she was the Mesa County recorder, and she was trying to preserve the vote tallies. And she was a little bit suspicious, even if she wasn't suspicious, even if there was no reasonable suspicion and no probable cause. She's not the police. The police have to have probable cause. She is the county recorder, or was, and she was simply trying to preserve the vote tallies. Can the county recorder do that? Yes. So, um, and of course, this crook of a judge, Matt Barrett, whatever his name is, I was in that courtroom. Uh, what a what an absolute unprofessional, stupid judge he was in that courtroom. Uh, and that's enough said about him. But he was, and my mom would be really turning over in her grave because she taught us not to call people stupid. But I don't know if he qualifies for being a people. So anyway, he was stupid. He acted like a little baby. He was very immature. Don't make any outbursts. Don't make any noise. And nobody was making any noise. I was there, and he was way overreacting and not paying attention. If you keep doing those outbursts, I can't pay attention to what's being said. You weren't paying attention anyway. So, what a joke all of this has been. Except when you look at this beautiful woman, this patriot um, woman, Tina Peters, sitting in jail. Folks, I know what jail is like. I used to run the Graham County Jail in Safford, Arizona. And that's where I'm from. That's where I grew up. Yeah, that's where my dad was an FBI agent for about 25 years. And in a minute, I want to tell you a story about what got me converted to the Constitution. And it's an amazing miracle how that all happened. Another amazing miracle is that next month in May, my wife and I will be celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary. And yes, I still consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the planet because of the beautiful girl that I call my bride. But uh, I want all of you to know that, yes, I've had a couple of reporters and people who have interviewed me recently who have actually asked me this question. And I think it's about the best question ever. Sheriff, did something happen to you in your career that caused you to turn to the Constitution, that made you a constitutional officer or sheriff, or that made you want to search that out and become that? So yes, there was, and I want to tell each of you what happened. I had just finished an undercover assignment, and uh, Apollo, if you can look up on Google, Sheriff Mack undercover photo. I have a big afro and a beard, and if you can find that, let's put that up while I'm talking here because um, I just finished undercover, and my undercover assignment was 1982. I started as a police officer, a full-time police officer or peace officer in 1979. Before that, I served a year as a meter maid, a parking enforcement cadet. But after I got finished with all my court cases and all the ins and outs of my undercover assignment, which I got to tell you this, was a real strain on my marriage. Could not be seen. There it is. Ah, folks, how do you like that? That is Sheriff Mack in 1983. Okay. 1982, actually. But the story happens in 1983. Look, that's a neat picture. So, so right after my undercover assignment, I was back on patrol, and I was writing tickets, and it was a slow day. There's nothing much going on. It was a beautiful spring day, I believe it was spring, and this is in Provo, Utah, and I was right next to Franklin Elementary School, and that's at 600 West, 300 South. And there was a four-way stop at that intersection, and I'm facing north, just south of the intersection. And I'm in a marked police car. And I'm making some notes. I'm making some notes on my daily activity report. This was before we were all computerized. And so we had to do this to keep track of where we were and what we were doing. And if you made a traffic stop, you had to document it. If you went on a family fight, you had to document it, the time and the time you spent there. And that was just smart. That's good police work. It's FYI. And so, not FYI, CYA. Sorry, wrong acronym. So it's a good way to CYA. And I'm writing a few notes, and I'm looking up every now and again. And then I notice a lady in a old Datsun. Yeah, Datsun. That's really old. And a cruddy old car. And she runs the stop sign right in front of me. I'm the only living thing in the world within, well, I was the only living thing in this entire area. There wasn't anybody out and about. There's nobody riding bikes. I think there were some kids over at the school, but couldn't really see them. And I was wondering, what is she doing? I'm in a marked police car. She's running a stop sign right in front of me. And then I figured out real quick what was going on, why she did it. Because inside her car, it looked like, the cartoon, the Tasmanian Devil? The Tasmanian Devil. It just whirly, 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 whirly. And it looked like a bunch of kids were all fighting, and there's heads and hands and feet and kicking and scratching and fighting. And she was trying to settle her kids down and lost track of where she was on the road. She didn't do this on purpose. She certainly didn't do that right in front of me. And right about the time that she was clearing halfway through the intersection, she looked up and kind of realized that she'd just run the stop sign. And she looked over at me, and she threw her arms up in the air as if to say, what else could go wrong today? And she immediately pulls over. She doesn't even wait for me to turn on my red and blue lights. She turns over, she pulls over, and I turn my red and blue lights on because I'm at a traffic stop, and that's to warn people what I'm doing, even though there was very little traffic going on. But you still have to do that, and that's protocol and what you're supposed to do. So I get up to her, and she has her license and registration out the window, and I take it, and I kind of have my clipboard here, the little doohickey that holds all my tickets, and she's not saying a word. And I said, wow, this is going to be easy. She's not crying. She's not, yeah. Oh, please, officer, please don't write me a ticket. How many children did your wife have? How about your mom? How many kids did she have? And I wasn't trying to do this. I was just trying to settle my kids down. She said nothing. She was just staring right through the windshield, holding her hands on the steering wheel. And she was not there. I think she was wondering why she married that guy that gave her all these kids. Some of the kids were still fighting and crying, and she wasn't paying any attention to them. And I just said, okay, good. We're supposed to write tickets. I'm writing a ticket, and this is easy because she's not even fighting me. And right towards the end of writing a ticket, the officer has to sign his name and his serial number. And my serial number was 793 at that time because I was hired in 1979 and I was the third officer hired that year, 793. And so right when I signed my name, I paused and I looked down at this dejected, depressed woman. I looked down at her snotty-nosed kids. I looked over her dilapidated old car. It was really a cruddy car. It wasn't worth $250. And it had bald tires and primer gray showing through on the body of the vehicle. And after I looked at all that, then I looked at me. And this was the most penetrating gaze I'd ever felt in my life. And I asked myself a few questions. I said, Mack, is there anything you're doing here that's helping this family? Is there anything you're doing here that's making this town a better place to live? And is there anything you're doing here that is bringing honor to the badge you wear on your chest? And I knew the answers were very simple to those three questions because it was no, no, and no. And now I'm feeling like maybe I'm the one in the wrong here. Oh, she ran the stop sign, but I was the one in the wrong because I was out there writing tickets instead of serving the people, taking care of the people. If I was really a public servant at that point, instead of just a stupid ticket writer, I would have said something like, ma'am, I know you didn't mean to run the stop sign, and I'm not going to write you a ticket. I just want you to learn from this situation that, one, what if a kid had been in the crosswalk when you went through the intersection? What if some neighborhood person would have been in the crosswalk? What if you had hit somebody? The lesson learned here is if and when your kids start acting up, pull over, take care of them. You know what? You could have maybe just had your kids get out at the school right there. The school wasn't fenced in like most of them are now. Go over there and play on the playground. Let them get some of that Tasmanian energy out of their system and let them go over there for a few minutes. No, I didn't even think of doing something that smart, something worthwhile that could really help this woman and her kids. And so after I answered those three questions, I was so ashamed, I just walked away and I didn't give her the ticket. And I didn't say anything to her either. I was a little bit worried that if I had told her I was going to cut her some slack, you know, a Barney Fife type. Well, ma'am, I'm going to cut you some slack today. Don't you think I'm wonderful? I didn't want her telling me I'm wonderful or thanking me or anything because I deserve none of that. So I walked away and I drove to the police station, which was only 3 blocks away. And I tore that ticket up and threw them all in the hundreds of pieces in the trash can, which you're not supposed to do that, by the way. Every ticket has to be accounted for. But I was going through something here and I wanted to know. And I'm dead serious about this. This is what I was now asking myself. Why do we have government? And why do we have cops? And why do we sit around writing all these tickets all day long? What are we? A tax collector? What are we, revenue generators? We're revenue agents. I thought I wanted to be a public servant. Well, this started the change. And epiphany after epiphany occurred to me as to what I was really supposed to be doing as a peace officer and a public servant. And so the next day I came back for briefing early, and I was walking around the police station. I walked in the briefing room where we have all the law books, and I was still looking for those answers. I wanted to know why we were doing this to people and why we have peace officers, why do we have cops, why do we have government? And I didn't know where to find these answers, but I was going to keep looking. So finally, I walked over on the city center side of the entire Provo City complex, and I walked into the city clerk's office, and I was just kind of standing in the doorway, wondering. And I didn't say anything, but I saw the city clerk back in her office, and she goes, "Officer Mack, can I help you?" And I don't even know why I said this, because it wasn't really a topic of conversation. I said, "When I took this job, did I take an oath of office?" And she goes, "Well, of course you did. At the police academy, when you graduated, you were pinned by your wife with your badge. And that's right after you take the oath of office." I go, "Oh, yeah, huh?" And then she goes, "After you finished your training here, uh, your first few weeks, you took it here too. You signed it. We require that you sign your oath, and it's on file. It's in your file." And I go, "I signed it?" I did not remember signing my oath of office. And when I said that, she went and got me a copy and brought it to me. I kept that copy for a long time. I mean, years and years. And I would read it all the time. In fact, I memorized it. And so I was now going to quit my job. I'm not kidding. I took an oath that I did not remember, that I had no intention of keeping. I took that oath so I could have a fun, exciting job. And I was ashamed of myself. And so I imagined going home after I just in fact, I was taking off my Sam Brown. That's the belt cops wear around their waist that has their gun and their keys and the portable radio holder and handcuffs and all that stuff. Back then it was called a Sam Brown. I'm sure they still have, they're called that today, but they have different belts that maybe they're named differently now. And I'm taking it off, and I took off my badge, and I'm going to go put it on the chief's desk or give it to his secretary and say, "I'm sorry, but I quit my job now. I'm not given 2 weeks notice. I'm leaving." I felt that bad. And so I imagine going home right then and walking in the house and meeting my wife, the pretty little blonde girl. And she goes, "What are you doing home?" And I said, "I quit my job." And we start talking about that a little bit. She goes, "Well, let me see if I got this straight, Mac. You have the case of the guilt, and you're ashamed of yourself, and you want to quit your job because of that. Yeah. Could you consider doing one thing?" And I said, "Sure, sure." She goes, and this really isn't happening. This conversation really isn't happening, but you men know what I'm talking about. Your wife becomes your subconscious. And so she goes, "Could you consider quit being a liar and a hypocrite and keep your job?" And I go, "Repentance, of course. Why didn't I think of that?" So I put my badge back on. I put my Sam Brown back on. I went down to briefing, and then I went home. And my wife says, "What are you doing home?" And I said, "I'm getting the World Book Encyclopedia that says U.S. Constitution." And I kept that great big old World Book inside my patrol car for about 2 weeks until I thoroughly read it over 2 or 3 times. And I loved every bit of it. I loved it. And while I'm doing this study, on our bulletin board, our police bulletin board, came a training session called The Constitution for Law Enforcement Officers. And the instructor was Dr. W. Cleon Skousen. And I went to that training. And this is probably the best teacher I've ever had. He was wonderful, so articulate, a great voice. And he worked in the FBI with my father. And he was also the chief of police for about 5 years in Salt Lake City. And during that time, I was converted. I was converted to American idealism, to our Constitution, and to the plight of the founding fathers to found America. And the book that he was taking most of his comments out of was a book that he wrote, The Making of America. We didn't study anything about tickets or arrests or the Miranda decision or any of that. We studied the Constitution and the making of America. And that's why I loved it so much. The making of America. And I took an oath during that. I took another oath during that time. And I said to myself, I will never be on the wrong side again. And that is what happened. And then about 5 years after this, some crazy people in Arizona, my wife's parents, told me I just had to come home and run for sheriff, or they were going to get a horrible, corrupt sheriff. And they were begging me and saying, we know that the Lord wants you to move home and run for sheriff. And my wife and I told them they were crazy. We're not going to. And then an epiphany occurred to both my wife and me at the same time. And we moved home and ran for sheriff, neither of us wanting to do so. And miraculously, we won. And in 1993 or 1992, I was reelected. And then 1994 is when BATF agents came to Arizona and all over the country, every state, and gave us our marching orders as to what we had to do to enforce the Brady Bill for the federal government for free under a threat of arrest if we failed to comply. And folks, I know that was kind of a long story, but it's the foundation of my career. And so I sued the federal government in 1994, February 28th, 1994. The NRA lawyers and my own lawyer filed in federal district court in Tucson, Arizona, Mack v. US. All of you already know, most of you know anyway, that's my calling card as Sheriff Mack. I would not be talking with you right now if it hadn't been for me filing that case. We beat the Clinton administration at the United States Supreme Court. 6 other sheriffs joined me in this lawsuit. Yes, I was the first one to file. Sheriff Prince from Montana was second. And rightly so, he and I were the 2 sheriffs that represented all the other sheriffs and the 7 that filed. We were the 2 that were mentioned in this case. We were called, yes, we were called the CLEOs, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer, in the Brady Bill itself. I want each of you to go to my website and get this book. There it is. My hand is holding that book. It's very small, fits right in your shirt pocket. There you go. And these are 3 for $5. You should be getting hundreds of these and pass them around. And it is so simple and so easy. The other one you should be getting, there it is right there. The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And it's on your screen right now. Thank you for sharing that, Apollo. But folks, we have got a lot to do. And there is so much work to do. And you know what really gets me is that we haven't been funded. Very seldom. Every now and again, somebody will come in and say, "Hey, I know you could use some financial help." But 3 people today quit their dues, and it really hurts my feelings. I'm not kidding you, it does. It hurts my feelings when people do that. We're we're so desperately in need of financial support, and then people paying $20 or $30 a year will quit on us. And 3 of them did it today because I get an email when that happens. And I wrote one of them a letter, and because he said, I guess I really don't know what you guys are doing, so I don't want to pay this anymore. And then I gave him a review, and I said, I'm sorry that I haven't kept in better touch with you. We send email blasts out all the time. And tomorrow, folks, is our CSPOA webinar. You have to be a member of the CSPOA posse to get on that. And I'd like all of you to do that. Become a member of our posse. It's right there on the front. And yes, you can join the posse, the CSPOA posse, because this is what really gets me, folks. We train you to have a relationship with your sheriff. We want you to have a relationship with your sheriff where you tell him what you want him to do. Why can you do that? And why should you do that? Because he works for you. So, yeah. And so if Tina in Mesa County, Colorado, if her sheriff had been a constitutional sheriff dedicated to protecting the people in his county from all enemies, both foreign and domestic, Tina Peters would not be in jail right now. And she would, and this constitutional sheriff would have protected her and would have defended her. So you want to arrest her? For what? She's the county recorder. She's in charge of the election. If she secures the tally of votes, is she trying to sell them? Is she trying to fabricate something here? No, she did none of that. But folks, when we first were formed and we had our first conference in Las Vegas at the Tuscany Hotel, January 30th, 2012, we're talking 13 years ago. A lot of Colorado sheriffs came. There were 11. It was the most from any state that we had come to it. And there was 95 and 97 sheriffs that attended that. And you have never felt the spirit of freedom so strong in your lives. It was just so powerful in the room. People would mention that. People would come up and say, I just felt something. And I said, what? They said, like a founding father bumped into me. And I'm not making this up, folks. I don't exaggerate the truth. I don't lie about anything like this. I'm sure I've told a lie before, but it was like if my wife asked me if that dress made her butt look fat. And I found a very discreet way to tell her. And but folks, to be honest with you, I would tell my wife the truth if she asked me. And if I see her wearing something that doesn't make her, it's not flattering, I tell her. But I do try to be discreet and tactful instead of causing a fight. Okay. So, yeah. And I have to tell you this. The truth of the matter is, I turned one time and my shoulder bumped into somebody. And there was nobody there. And I honestly felt that it was one of the founders of our country. And we have had so many different sheriffs. Folks, look up the sheriffs who refused to enforce COVID-19 mandates. There was over 500 nationwide. Sheriff Richard Jones in Butler County, Ohio. I had never even met him. And there was about 25 in California. There were several in Arizona. We only have 15 counties in Arizona. Okay. And we're the sixth largest state geographically. So the counties are real big here. And there were sheriffs in Florida and Texas. Man. But the first one that really came forward saying, we're not going to arrest people for not wearing a mask. We're not going to arrest people for not closing their store. And he was standing against a fellow Republican. And that reminds me of another problem we have in America. That was Sheriff Mark Lamb from Pinal County, and he was all over Fox News. He says, we're not going to do this. This is America. We don't sacrifice the Constitution and individual liberty for COVID-19 or anything else. And that brings us right back to our Supreme Court case. Folks, look, in the decision, I have this memorized, but just so you know, it's the heading, the Constitution protects us, right there. What page is it? 13. You need to have these. Pass these to your sheriffs. Pass them to your city council, your county commissioners, your county attorney. Get these out there. You need to read this. This is what it says in this most miraculous Supreme Court case ever done by sheriffs in the history of America. This is the only time sheriffs sued the federal government, the Clinton administration, no less, and won a major landmark case. Quoting Justice Scalia, who's quoting another justice from another time. But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government precisely so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution. Get this, folks, to the crisis of the day. The expedient solution to the crisis of the day, so that we may resist the temptation to do that. The temptation, the evil to do that. Folks, the reason Scalia was acting, I mean, it's like he's talking to us today, especially during COVID, because if we keep destroying the Constitution and destroying God-given liberties for the crisis of the day, then there's always going to be another crisis because the government knows, and these tyrants and these corrupt politicians know how to control us. Make a crisis. And what did Barack Obama and Rahm Emanuel say about the crisis of the day? Never let a good crisis go to waste. And they didn't. And even if they have to create one, like they did with our dear friend Tina. And folks, I know last time, and I hope more people are listening today, we really need to support this network, and we really need to support Tina, and we really need to support the CSPOA, because we would have more constitutional sheriffs if we had the personnel, the staff, and the funding. And you, the people, we, the people, working with us, we'll train you what to say. We'll train you how to talk to your sheriff. We'll train you how to get him to a meeting. Do you know what the 11 Colorado sheriffs said why they went to that first conference on January 30th, 2012? Because the Tea Parties told them to. You don't have to be part of a Tea Party or any other organization. You can do it on your own. Go get a few of your neighbors, go talk to your sheriff and say, we really want you to get to this next conference that we're going to be having in the state of Washington because Sheriff Wagner is being sued by his attorney general of that state because Sheriff Wagner is helping Tom Homan and President Trump with deportation that is supposed to be against the law in Washington. What, Washington and Oregon? Wow. And you thought Newsom was bad in California. Washington is horrible, and they're attacking sheriffs every day. And it is. They're doing it every day. They made it, and I don't know how they even did this. King County, I believe that's the greater Olympia, the capital area of Washington. They now have appointed the sheriff. He is no longer elected because these lying politicians, these dishonest, lying politicians who don't understand the proper role of government and their role in preserving our Constitution, that they're stealing the authority away from the American people and taking it upon themselves, which they have no authority to do. Usurpation and stealing is what they're doing. So, folks, we want to work with you. We need to work with you. And we need more constitutional sheriffs. Do we want the sheriffs to be having Trump's back? Yes. And Florida sheriffs just did that, and they voted unanimously. All the sheriffs, and there was about 12 that first weren't on board. But all the sheriffs met with Governor DeSantis. And after that meeting, all of the sheriffs, and all of them, 100%, were together on backing Trump and working on getting deportation. Folks, the sheriffs in Florida realized that they want these criminals out of their counties and out of America. Can you imagine sheriffs or chiefs of police that don't want to do that? They want these criminals to stay. Talk about a political disaster. They want more murders. They want more drugs and fentanyl. They want more overdoses. They want more rapes. They want more cops beaten and attacked and ambushed and run over, which all those things have happened to cops during the last 4 years. Thank you, Joe Biden and Kamala. Good grief. This is what we almost elected? Well, absolutely astonishing, folks. Absolutely astonishing. So, do you remember President George Washington assailing, criticizing a two-party system? Well, he did, and he said that a two-party system would be the bane of American liberty. Did he suggest that we have like 5 or 6 or 10 parties? No, I think what he was trying to point out, folks, is we really need to get rid of the parties, period. Look at the individual running for office. I don't care what office it is. I don't care if it's dog catcher, although I don't think dog catchers ever run, but they are appointed. I don't care if it's county recorder. I don't care if it's sheriff. I don't care if it's county commissioners. I don't care if it's county attorney or the attorney general of the state or the governor. I don't care. I want the person to not say, I'm a Democrat, vote for me. I'm a Republican, vote for me. You know, when I went door-to-door campaigning, I could not believe how many people said, well, what party are you? Okay, well, you got my vote. Don't you want to know what I stand for? Don't you want to read my pamphlet? They just wanted to see if you were a D or an R. And folks, I believe that today, George Washington's prophecy has been fulfilled. We have a lot of people call it the uniparty because Democrats and Republicans are so political and so corrupt that both of them take money from Big Pharma for the same damn race and campaign. And that's widespread. And everybody knows that's happening. Why does Big Pharma donate to both the Democrat and the Republican? Because they don't care who wins. They just want to buy whoever wins. It's buying politicians. And they want to hedge their bet. Big Pharma or many other corporations want to hedge their bet. Whoever wins is going to owe them. And yet, Sheriff Scott Jenkins got convicted of bribery, and Big Pharma and other corporations donating to both the Democrat and the Republican is not bribery. If Scott Jenkins is guilty of bribery, who's going to be on our webinar tomorrow, our posse webinar, if he was guilty of bribery, every politician in this country would be the same. So we're going to be talking about his case and his charges. And my goodness, folks, it is astonishing how corrupt it's all getting. Now, Apollo, I want to make sure I'm not getting too late here. How much time do I have?
Tina recorded a message, and she wanted me to play it tonight for you.
Oh, definitely. Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Fire away.
Sheriff Mack, you are so dear to me. All that you've done for many, many years to preserve our constitutional rights, going even up against the Supreme Court. And I hope you'll talk briefly about that during the show today. But I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you. The Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association was birthed from your efforts and many sheriffs across the United States that do follow the Constitution. And that's what we need in this day and time. We need sheriffs that are going to realize that they are there to serve the people, not the district attorney, not the cartel of chosen selected representatives, but that they are there to serve the people, obey the Constitution. So when you talk about a constitutional sheriff for the people today, I encourage everyone to share this show with your sheriff, and Sheriff Mack, you can give them the ways that they can support you. I appreciate you so much. You always have been such a great man of God and a man of our country, and very much a hero in my eyes. Thank you for doing the show today.
Wow. Well, thank you, Tina, and thank you, Apollo, for sharing that with us. I'm really touched that she did that for us, and wow, thanks, Apollo. Appreciate it. That was wonderful. I told you that she's such a classy lady, and she's being what the New Testament talks about, long suffering, and I believe that she has forgiveness in her heart to those who have put her in this horrible predicament. And when government is wrong, it doesn't pay to be right. And Tina was right. And I think we ought to change the words to that. When government is so totally corrupt, it doesn't pay to be correct. And folks, the solution for America is very simple. It's not going to be easy, but the equation is simple. Return to the Constitution. If we return to the Constitution, we will save America, and we will start working with Alice Johnson and others across the country, President Trump, to identify the people who should not be in prison. And I've actually been working on that for 10 years because of what happened to Sam Gerard, an Amish farmer in Kentucky who got 6 years in prison from the crook of the judge, Danny C. Reeves, in Kentucky. It was either Lexington or Louisville. And this judge sentenced this man who's never committed a crime to 6 years in prison because he was obstinate and he didn't get permission from the FDA to make this lotion. And I've just been so hurt that America could have a government that would be that cruel. But we've allowed the IRS to do stuff like this for such a long time. And folks, I still pray that we will get that President Trump will abolish the IRS, abolish the income tax, abolish the Federal Reserve, and make America great again. You cannot make America great if you allow the IRS to keep doing to people what it does. And what this government in Colorado did to Tina Peters. And so, folks, I absolutely hate to be accused of something I never did or even never even think about. And Ben Franklin said, it is better that we would allow 100 guilty men to go free than to put one innocent person in prison. That's what we've done here. And we have maybe a week or so before Sheriff Scott Jenkins has to report to prison. And I pray that we can get this to President Trump in time. I've made more calls today to people who have contacts with him. And we pray that we stop that. And then we can focus more of our energy on others, on Tina. And I hope that the Justice Department does investigate what happened here to Tina in Colorado. So, folks, all of this boils down to us fighting to keep the people out of office who are so totally corrupt, getting rid of them and returning, going back to Independence Hall and restoring our Constitution, just as the Founding Fathers promulgated the Constitution in the first place. So, folks, thank you, and thank you so much for being with us. And again, go to cspoa.org, become a member, make a donation. I will say that one of your fellow Coloradoans sent us a pretty good donation just a few weeks ago, and she's a dear friend of mine, and we absolutely need it, and we implore all of you to become part of this peaceful and very effective solution. cspoa.org. This is Sheriff Mack for Tina Peters. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating, that sort of thing.